we are an advertising agency. But it's kind of the definition of advertising has changed so much since I've been in the business, which has been about 20 years. It used to mean purely kind of like 4 or 5 different media channels, electronic, just like TV and radio and all the print mediums and maybe some direct marketing. But now it's digital, social, promo, activation, the whole thing. So, and what clients are asking us to do is more than just make ads, communications for people. We're actually being asked to create experiences for consumers to get involved in. And because consumers have got a far more powerful role in their relationship with brands than they used to because of social media again. Advertising is now kind of broadening and encompassing and being redefined. So we are an advertising agency of what I've just said is what advertising is, if that makes sense. DDB was founded by a guy called Bill Bernbach. I don't know whether you know him. He's probably worth, if you're interested in advertising, worth looking up. He basically invented insight-driven advertising. I mean, before DDB, this is like late 50s, before DDB and him, advertising was like, pictures of people driving big Cadillacs going, buy my car, it's really good. Whereas he discovered that if you could say something that was meaningful to people that touched them, the kind of truth, the consumer truth about the product, then they'd be more motivated to kind of like you and therefore be interested in your product. I don't think they expect people to explore creativity. I don't think it's about, I think that's your job. I think we just employ people who are naturally curious, naturally kind of interested in creativity in its all forms.
That kind of answers question 5, that what personality traits do you look for when you're hiring?
Yeah, well, smart and nice is obviously the first two. The other one is just a sense of energy. I mean, smart can overcome a lot. If they're kind of if you're really good and I can see it in the work, then you can probably be relaxed a few of the other things. But you have to have good values. It doesn't matter how smart you are. Basically, if you don't have those, there's no point being in that culture because it can be quite disruptive. So smart and nice is really important. But a passion, a curiosity, a desire to kind of do world's best practice. I think it's we try and do the best work not just in Sydney or Australia, but do the best work globally. So you've got to have kind of those sort of ambitions to work with us.
Okay. How do you know that a designer or creative will fit into the culture of DDB?
Well, first you start with looking at the work. Often I see the work before I meet the person because the great thing is you can see the work online usually. So to get to that stage of having a chat, the work's good, so that's probably the number one thing. And then you assess the personality and go, would they fit with the people? Often there's a quite tight-knit design group that works, we call it our craft department. They're going to be able to work with people. Design departments are not a bottleneck, but they're a real pointy end of the process, especially in your business pitches and things like that. They have to be quite resilient and quite tolerant and quite patient because you're going to get lots of people throwing different things at you, and you often have to work quite quickly. So an inherent sort of personality is required for that sort of role. Have your own opinions and be willing to kind of share them, but at the same time, if those opinions, often I work with designers and I go, that's a really great idea, and I'm willing to kind of move and change where I want it to go. And there are other times where a designer will have an idea and I'll go, yeah, that's right, I appreciate that, it's really cool, but it's not quite right for what we want to do. And that's where a designer has to go, no worries, I see that and take that on board. But yeah, you don't want to be pushovers, which is what you're saying.
How are most projects that you work on initiated, and how do you begin your concept development?
Well, it starts with a client brief. The client has a problem or a project that they need to launch or set a product to sell. And the first port of call for them is with what we call our account service team, which is usually is the kind of client-facing representative plus a strategist. And then they'll go and analyse the brief.
What would you say are the most important factors for a successful project?
From a creative point of view, I love work that's really fresh, really original, and has really resonated with consumers, that actually has motivated and influenced them to do something different.
So can I ask a question like that? How hard do you think it is in this day and age to be original?
It's actually probably easier now with all the new media because there's so much stuff with new media and there's new things you're finding out digitally and technologically that haven't been used before. So you can actually be fresher and more original than ever.
Have you ever had projects where you struggled, and how were you able to find your way through?
Persistence is the key, and staying fresh. I think it's all sorts of techniques, and I think there's a million books out there you can read about overcoming creative sort of roadblocks or whatever. But for me, it's about hard work. It's keeping yourself stimulated. I think the worst thing you can do is just sit in a room like this and just keep thinking and hoping it'll come. You can do that, and that's fine. And different things work for different people. I like to kind of get out, go for a walk. I'll look at other great award-winning work just to kind of not so much to copy the work, but be stimulated by how they solve that problem. And you go, wow, and almost it kind of gives you a bar, gives you a level that you want to reach. Go and think about something else. Let your subconscious, often you don't have time to do that, but let your subconscious kind of deal with the problem for a while. But persistence in all sorts of ways. Talk to people. Conversations. I think that's why often in agencies people work as teams, because you can actually, 1 + 1 = 3 type thing. And I often find just talking it through with people, because I think you can get trapped in your own mind and go stale very quickly. Excuse me.
What are your tips for young designers who want to break into their first creative role?
It's kind of circling back where we started. Persistence, constantly updating, getting feedback. Even if you just see people who are in the business, they know what they want to see, and you just keep evolving your book, keep evolving your work. Don't just kind of go, oh, that's my set thing, and I'll take it and flog it. Just keep updating it. But listen to the people whose work you respect. Can't listen to everyone else, you get really confused. I've went through that. Find out the people who you're seeing, find out what work they've done, and see what's made them famous. And if you really like that sort of work, then listen to them. If you go and see someone and you go, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of his work, but I'm interested, he might have something nice to say, but if you've got to sift through and prioritise what you want. But ultimately it's persistence. I cold call for 2-3 months, had interviews, got freelance gigs, until I finally got a job. I think the kind of ways you get in contact with people has changed, but I think that method's still pretty relevant.
Alright, lucky last. Would you have any advice for designers who might want to start their own studio?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. It depends what you want as a career as a designer. I would have thought sometimes it might be nice to go and work to get some background and some experience and then go and do that. But if you've got clients that you can start with and that's what you want to do and you want to be independent, by all means go for it. It's just whatever you want to do. I haven't had a lot of experience in small business I've got friends who started their own design company. A lot of the students that I went to college with did that. And some have been successful, some probably not. It'll come down to your own personal ambition and your business acumen, because that will become a big part of it. I would advise at least do a year or 2 years in a design company or an agency and just learn some of the kind of pitfalls, get some experience, maybe make some connections, because you're going to need business to start with. That would be my thing. Not probably the one question I'm least experienced to answer, but that would be mine. Do whatever you want, really, because if you're doing what you want, then you're going to be passionate about it, and if you're passionate about it, then you're already halfway to success. That'll be it.
That's a really
Sweet.
last answer.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cam.
No, look, fine.